Another topic we will now take a look at is functions and modular code. We will take a look at these two building blocks of a programming language one by one. We will start with functions and then take a look at even a larger optimization mechanism for writing code known as modules. And at the end, I'm going to show you an example. We will put those pieces all together and see them in action. Okay, in the previous lesson, we learned that programs make decisions and repeat instructions using conditions and loops. As programs becomes larger, however, placing every instruction in a single file quickly becomes difficult to read and maintain. And this is where functions come into play. A function can be defined as a named block of code that stores instructions that perform a specific task. So the idea is that we group a certain instructions, certain piece of code, we name it, this is what is going to make our function, and then when we want to perform those instructions, we will simply run that function, which is also known as calling a function or executing a function. So when you hear a term calling a function or just call a function, it basically means run a function or just execute a function. Okay, so why we may actually want to do something like this? Well, the idea is that instead of writing the same instructions multiple times at different places in the code, we will just group those instructions to a function, and then whenever we need to call this particular block of code, we will not copy it and paste, but just run the function, call the function. And this way the program temporarily transfers execution to the function, it performs the required work defined in the function, and then continues executing the remaining instructions, the remaining code. The benefits include improved code readability, reduced duplication of the code, and making applications easier to maintain. Rather than reading hundreds or thousands of lines of code in sequence, we can now organize related tasks into smaller self-contained building blocks. Functions become even more useful when they can work with different pieces of information. Instead of creating a separate function for a different situation, we can configure a function to work with so-called parameters or just input values that allow a function to perform the same task using different information. And those parameters is something that we will feed into a function, and the function, once processing those input values, is supposed to produce a result. This is going to be our return value, which is going to be the end result of a function's operations. The idea of using different input values is what allows a function to solve different but similar problems without unnecessarily duplicating the code or just the function itself. A good example will be a function that is meant to calculate a total price of an order. Let's say that the name of the function will be just total price, and we will provide this function with two types of inputs. One is going to be the product price. I'm going to call it P price. And the other one is going to be the quantity, which is basically the amount of products that were ordered. Okay, and what the function is going to do is that it will calculate the total price, which is going to be the P price multiplied by the quantity. So first and foremost, it is going to calculate the total price for an order, and then it is going to return it. Of course, the benefit of building a function like that, or a simple use case of, let's say, running a website that sells something is that no matter what type of product you have, and no matter how many products you have, as long as you know a price of a single product and the amount of products that were ordered, you can use this function to calculate the total price for the customer. As simple as that. Next, we also have a concept of modular code. As applications continue to grow, organizing them into functions is no longer sufficient because a large application can contain hundreds or even thousands of functions. So this still means a lot of code lines in a single file. And because of that, it is also possible to define those functions under so-called modules. You can think of a module as of a separate file that stores certain functions grouped based on their capabilities, I would say. Like you can have one module that serves anything related to user authentication, like login, logout, like validate username, and then you have another module that is used for API calls, for instance. And this way, all the related functions will be stored and defined inside of those individual files, our modules. And then when we want to use one of those functions, we will simply import a given module and call a function through that module. Of course, this modular approach makes applications easier to develop, maintain, and reuse. It also allows multiple developers, that's actually a pretty big point, to work on the same application in the same time. Now think about building a large application. When you have a lot of developers, it would be pretty much impossible for all of those guys to work on the same file, on the same exact code in the same time because of problems with saving the changes. So instead of everyone works on the same file with modules, you kind of like assign the piece of code, the piece of functionality to the developer. It gets his own file, his own module, and focuses on that. And then when you build the program, make it a whole, you simply import the modules and make those different pieces of code available for the main file. At a very high level, it could look like that. We would have our main application file, main.py. Inside of that file, we would say import user underscore authentication, user of c.py, where user underscore of c.py is going to be our module that contains functions that we will want to use throughout the main application, like login and let's say logout. Okay, so with this file imported under main.py, we can then just refer to those functions. Also by specifying the name of the module. This is still more like a pseudocode, but you get the idea. The point is that the actual content of the login function is defined in a different module, in a different file. So under our main.py, we only see one line that enforces user login, with the actual code responsible for the login definition being kept in a different file, user authc.py. Let's now take a look at our final example. Okay, this prompt is all about defining two functions to show you the parameters and return values, and also, of course, the syntax of a function. Then you will print some of the results that will be provided by our function, and we will organize the code with some of the comments. We will leave the modular topics, the modular stuff, and module imports for our next session. When we get to the import command, I just wanted to highlight this briefly in this session. For now, let's focus on the functions. This is a pretty significant topic because pretty much every single application is going to have at least one function defined. Okay, let's go ahead and paste it to GPT. And then let's wait for the code to be generated. And let's now analyze the code. Okay, we see that it defined a function. In case of Python, the functions are defined with the def command. This is the name of the function. And then inside of parentheses, we've got our parameters. In this case, it's simply a and b. So nothing really meaningful, but this is a simple example. And we see that what the function is going to do, it is just supposed to return a number which is a sum of the two parameters that were provided as input to the function. So we give it two numbers, a and b, and we return a sum of these two numbers. That's the idea of this function. And there is also one other function that we will also look at. It says the name is create greeting. And the greeting is basically the input to the function is just a name. And with a name provided as the input, we will return hello, followed by the name and by an exclamation mark. So whenever name you input to this function, you will see hello, name, exclamation mark. That's the idea here. Okay, this is where we define the functions. The functions are defined. They were given our input values, and they are also told what to do with the input. But we still need to run the functions. Defining a function doesn't mean that you run it. The way you run a function is when you just call function's name along with the actual input data, like 8 and 5. And for the second function, we will use word string text Alice. Okay, then we will print the results of the function return values. Okay, let's look at this in action. We execute the code. The sum is 14, and then it says hello Alice as expected. If we were to change the input value, notice that I will not be changing the functions to change the output. I will be changing the input only. So if I change, let's say, to 4 and 25, and then say Kate here, it's enough to produce a different output. Now the sum is going to be 29, and the string that is generated by the second function is hello Kate. As for the modules, we will take a look at this stuff in our next video.